Hello, America. This is a video police report. My name is Anthony Wall. This is also an affidavit. I swear to God to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God. And God I'm using as an algebraic variable. That means what's positive to sequence true before the order of the finite now. In other words, what is active and what is progressive value simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. And this is regarding uses of people's names on the mass scale originally and still. Mass identity thefts and frauds. People supposed to be identities as Democrats. People supposed to be identity as Republicans. When they speak in the news every day, it's related to this. So over the last half of the year, the Wethersfield police have been attaching me and others around me to fake words and video. And they've been fabricating audio and video to replace actually recorded audio and video. Also, since I was a kid, with people associated with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and with federal criminals before they got caught, who were involved with him as his co-defendants, and people associated with his co-defendants and their family members in a 2006 district court case, which the testimony of former director of FBI as in his defendant capacity, former standing chairperson on Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants, and the holding of that case and people associated with the case and the buildings next to it are involved with, like the New Haven Register, I believe is the name of the paper. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved also with Facebook crimes with Wethersfield Police and with New Britain Superior Court. And all the people tied to them privately, including medical locations, like a Leahy family, a bunch of doctors from Hartford Hospital, and their kids have roles with overt criminal enterprises, drug crimes, as the people supposed to be against that as doctors. See, the intelligence community has been discrediting people who say things, and then the journalists and others discredit us and won't let us report that. And they tell us to sue, but those courts are already, with their family members already criminally involved. This is really why and how we have this stupid manifest. Like, for example, there's a certain kind of pseudo-science that pretends it's smart anyway, that has people from a whole bunch of countries walking to America. It has America, has Americans rightfully complaining about that. But while they're complaining about it, they're simultaneously entertaining it because of the time treatments down to all locations, areas, and states. Time has been used too fast, too slow to get over on forever nature, to get over on the quality of fact treatment nature that we are not only really capable of, that is long by and from the simultaneous nature that inventions work or not in relationship to it. And they are further positive or not in relationship to it. And demonstration of what causes positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures, or negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and length of hadith relative to an science actually. See, they want to have us fight about sciences and use people as experts that are victims that want to defend themselves the way they were taught to defend themselves as experts through campuses since I was a little kid in Wethersfield, Connecticut. Colleges and universities from other parts of Connecticut and interstates had family members, alumni, and then their family members associated with the campuses. And they have a predicate acts delivery system method that uses corners, that uses offensive evidence reception racketeering, where they have a whole bunch of little tricks where they can make people make statements and confessions to people when they come around corners as people that they know that are kids that are then going to be adults associated with the colleges and universities. and they further a little illusions and predicate acts and wrongdoing and sequence shifts and identity thefts and frauds instances, illusions stacked into databases at the youngest campuses, and also not and spoken, and then also that people don't even realize because they're attaching everyone to fake words with each other. They force people to use other people's names. They force people not to use other people's names so they can keep the wrong outcomes in cases. So they can keep the wrong outcomes at locations, all locations, areas, and states. So they can keep the negative value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures that nature is going to keep demonstrating, blamed on other things other than themselves. New York City is designed to cause negative value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures. A breaching method, a human fact treatment nature breaching method, allowed that to be only fathomable. Entertainment of sciences and, quote, experts, unquote, that want to speak for positive anyway. They want to speak for freedom anyway. New York was designed, urban cities, suburbs throughout the world, let alone urban locations, infrastructure, people stacking. So they put wealth with people stacking is different. And so they have names forging and switching is one of the things that the departments do. And they have wire crime acts and methods. They have the families that answer the phones for the Wethersfield police through time, their family members, their friends, their neighbors, forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded to roles with predicate acts with them. Drugs crimes, medicines crimes associated with the people who answer the phones for the Wethersfield police, people who answer the phones for the courts, etc., people who answer phones for the news media. They have retired and standing interbranch associated with them and with the locations next to them. So in other words, this is worse than extortion too, because they're preventing preventing people that would be the best teachers from being teachers by having little fakes, little boys and girls that never matured as the ones who are pretending to mature, by using what other people speak to them, by knocking other people, by pretending they had conversations with them when they were around them in the past, because they're influenced to by the intelligence community, which includes the three branches of government, which includes all exception nature, in other words, the military, fire campuses, the services people that have to associate, that have to work with the government, and the campuses. And these are all database relationships. People are typing, there's instances, okay, my job tells me to type this in or ask these questions. And then they're switching that. And no one's paying attention. So they pretend not to understand people while simultaneously attaching us to fabricated audio and video. So leading up to the World Trade Center attack in Manhattan, are people from Wethersfield, Connecticut, and from other cities in Connecticut and their relatives associated with the World Trade Center. Wethersfield police recorded, confessed, and demonstrated before, some of them before they were police, like a Joe DeMoro who made it, who came into my fifth grade class. I don't think he was in my fifth grade class when I was in fifth grade, and Mr. Pruzzi, the only time he ever came up to me and said anything to me, he told me to do a maze that Joe DeMoro was doing. Now, these are also people involved with the former Mayor Gold's daughter and son and self, a former Mayor Gold and his wife and stuff like that, and their neighbors. They're also involved with identity theft, fraud, sequence shifts, like a Joseph Dennis. So years ago, and he's also said like Powder Ridge, people associated with Powder Ridge, years before there was like developments there and stuff like that. That was involved with the people with the drugs and medicines crimes with the agencies. and with foreign countries. Now, these are people also involved with all kinds of insurance racketeering, insurance companies racketeering with their investigators. That has nothing to do, in other words, they have roles using that to cover up their own personal lie progressions and roles and uses of locations with other instances, with other natures of investigators. I ask them questions, they leave out details. Knowingly and unknowingly, because they're being coached, they're asking people questions with fake information, so and fake conversations between people. Then they're asking about those fake conversations again. They're exploiting phenomena in people's syntax when they respond to questions with lies in them. In other words. And then they're just going back and writing whatever they want anyway. So the police forms cannot be communicated with. And the people countering the police, people saying, oh, let's defund the police. Those people are in collusion. Those movements are in collusion. They use it's criminal to pretend someone's against the police when they're saying bad things about the police, because that's what the police did and do and are. So there's a detective, there's a Chief Cintron, and there was one years ago involved with an 80 Carriage Drive that has the name Cololo. That was brought up by a Wethersfield police officer forging, switching names over the phone, wire crimes. He said his name was Officer Sullivan. Wethersfield police confirmed that was their officer that called me. But they only have one officer named Sullivan, and that it's a female. So they also have the Wethersfield town offices, which used to be associated with the Wethersfield Fire Department. And they have a Smith family that used to answer the phones for Wethersfield police. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involved with fire departments and with the Wethersfield Police Department, with drug sales and untimely deaths roles, various natures of drugs, and their uses of that effectively to keep each group of each age of fact-cheating nature, hiding lie progressions, pretending they're about legitimate science. People calling other people druggies, who are the only ones who have access to the people selling and using the worst natures of drugs. And then they're blaming other people and other things for it. Because they've been attaching people to fake locations too. They use that grouped. They're going to get the whole group to lie. They're going to bring up people's names in conversations when they're in context where they're doing a whole bunch of things and saying a whole bunch of things they want left out. But then later, when that's brought up by investigators, including ones that are their parents, they're going to leave things out. But they're going to speak anyway. They're going to pretend they're truth tellers anyway. So this is worse than extortion. But we have the individuals we have to blame for this. And this is worse than election crimes. So we have mayors. There's Amy Morin Bello, there's a Russ Morin, and there's a Julie Morin, who might be her mother. A Julie Morin, I never had a conversation with her, one exception. And in other words, I had no problem with her. There's a Sal Civiello, who's also implied that his roles off campuses years ago, he confirmed Eric Jensen, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated he's involved with his family, with state police and other police forms, Wethersfield Police, and overt criminal enterprises involved with houses on and off Two-Route Highway, with sequence shifts and with falsified police reports roles, and drugs and medicines crimes roles, with an Eric Jensen and his family and his neighbors. One of his neighbors was a co-defendant in a 2006 district court part of a case, /S, where one of his co-defendants is former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence to Corrupt Organization Act, Robert Luskin. So Eric Jensen was neighbors with a Dearborn Street house. I don't know if it was a house or they used it for on Dearborn in Newington. But he was put in a class with me, which is a woodshop class, in high school. And that location of that woodshop class is also involved with black and white families, with identity thefts and frauds roles, falsified police reports roles, slanders. Now these are also people that pretend that they could speak for justice. They have their kids involved with. These are black and white female judges, and with male judges, with their family members, involved with identity theft, fraud, sequence shifts, all kinds of people on and off Two-Rod Highway and Hangdog Lane and the streets tied to it. They have roles with instances real and made up, ones I don't even see before, they're pretending other. And they do it with passions and emotions. Online and stuff like that, and in the backgrounds, where I could never respond to it, and other people could never respond to it. Now, intercities, they coordinated with Weathersfield police forms and their family, and they have military. They have military police like a MPO Floyd, roles forging and switching names, and with physical delusions. Our mental experts had physical delusions since founding. They've been, criminally foreign influenced. They've been involved personally criminally with their family members with various natures of courts, exploiting how we have all these different countries here. Leading up to the World Trade Center attack, Weathersfield police recorded and people associated with them and the military, foreign and domestic, intercities, they coordinated forced roles of Saudi Arabia and of Kuwait with predicate acts with judges and prosecutors and their family members, intercities coordinated, and on and off Trinity College, on and off Central Connecticut State University, before I went to Trinity College. And then when I was there, they attached me to fake words. See, they have campuses that are filmed 24/7. They pretend people walk next to each other. They pretend other illusions were filmed that never were, because they were needing to hide live aggressions, illusions from before. Not just on campus, off campus. There's a Dean Alford or someone who pretended to be him with the name switch, even if it was him, on Facebook. See, the Facebook pages of the campuses, the stewards of them, are involved with falsified police reports that are also identity thefts and frauds. There are also roles to use with maintenance to worse than criminally incompetent groupings of, like parent-teacher conferences, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated where they have some of the parents, especially the ones interbranch, especially differentially, because especially the ones who are involved with foreign families, overt criminal enterprises. Los Solitos and people associated with Los Solitos that admit and confess they are involved with overt criminal enterprises. And people associated with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso. And people that confess that they are involved with overt criminal enterprises, other than Los Solitos. Intercultural. They are recorded in collusion through time. Now they've been using the intelligence community and their roles with private like news media through time, fabricating audio and video into stories. Like, for example, WFSB attached me to fake words and locations with people that had roles with predicate acts with journalists and with police forms in the past, and with courts criminally involved in the past, with the transition from ACA to RICO, and after that, in other words. So, we can't have, in other words, time has been going by. Since before the World Trade Center attack, I asked to report this stuff. And more, the people I asked to report to attached me to fake words, fake ties to themselves, and they brought their family members, I found out, involved with it. They've been using this to hide live progressions. So we have all kinds of medical racketeering and corruption associated with all kinds of natures of courts and military and campuses that has nothing to do with medical, and definitely not with mental health. So we have to counter the various natures of courts personally involved with those doctors criminally, and how they are foreign doctors here and there shared, and their family members, and how they have students like associated with Hartford Hospital. These students from UConn. UConn has a whole bunch of ways people involved with the overt criminal enterprises, and with the FBI and with the CIA, with their family members. There's a Scalora family that never went to my school, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I know, my schools. I never saw a Subby Scalora on the campus of Central Connecticut State University too. He on Facebook he recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with predicate acts with people. Before that, he was recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involved with private school kids and kids from intercities, with my town's police chief's daughter, and with a Fred Grisey, and with other police forms families, like a Domain family and a Mendez family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed involved with a health class project I did about their roles with strangers that were making confessions to me, as the Fred Grisey, as the people on all sides of the high school. So they have private school kids associated with all sides of the high school that were also involved with identity thefts and frauds, with the police families and their kids, on off the high school, on off the middle school, on off other child campuses in town. How and why they use the off part, part of it is also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's a Pierce family. There's a Matt Pierce, nice kid. I barely know him. Never had a conversation with him. He's got a wife that, I believe is his mother. I don't know if it was the same one, but people associated with him and Weathersfield town offices, and the mother that used to, of the two brothers with the drugs, with the corners and with other police forms on Fairlane Drive. And they have a use of the corners too, like the corner of Fairlane Drive and Carriage Hill Drive. A Jamie Smith, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, him and his brother David Smith are involved with selling ecstasy as the families of the people who answer the phones for the Weathersfield police, as people have roles with falsified police reports through time, as people have roles with identity thefts and frauds. I never saw them on one of the campuses I went to in my life. I don't even know what schools they went to. Jamie Smith and David Smith. There's also a Judge Smith I had to write a complaint about when I was a kid. So these are people that pretend, they play stupid. They come to their house, they don't let you communicate. They let courts do it. They're falsifying police reports. Then they pretend they make mistakes with the police reports. They switch the officers' names. They show you a charge. There's no writing. Switched officers' names. One that wasn't even in the location, pretending now that. Then they say, oh, we'll do this. And okay, well, we'll let you go. And then like that. Then they're stacking falsified police reports, differentially fake, into databases. And they exploit that after, because in other words, they can't speak about what's real. So we have types of experts that are making time treatments too fast, too slow. They're getting over on people. They've been using courts sicker than most killers. Since before founding, they've been using that as a weapon. They've been using badges as weapons to hide their personal life aggressions, to hide their personal worst in criminal incompetence. So, don't pretend not to understand. Fix the fake news. WFSB attached me to fake words. Weathersfield police confirmed that there's a Kerr family. There's also an Officer Jerry Miller who confirmed there's a Kerr family. And there's the Morrow family that themselves recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There are locations next to WFSB also involved with them, with identity thefts and fraud instances, also as their roles with falsified police reports. Also as their roles with predicate acts into the databases of campuses I went to, and with other people. Now there are people from Trinity College that recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, and with a Dean Alford, that a Joshua Stryker, who I never had a conversation with, even in my grade, is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with them through times with sequence shifts, and with confessions about their roles with predicate acts with proven federal criminals, and with their kids since before they were caught. When I was in high school, they would wait till I come around a corner. Sometimes they would call me to the office from a stupid thing. Then I'm walking back, and I'm gonna walk back this way because they say you're in the cafeteria or something like that. You're gonna walk through this door. Someone will come up and make a confession then, like in other words, and then walk away before they get their answer. You know, little boys and girls bring up things associated with criminal enterprises. They also have, like, in other words, my father was a labor leader, and he was trying to run for a higher position of it in the union. And there was since proven pension thieves. That, in other words, like Dominic Leperato, the neighbor of Eric Jensen on Dearborn Street in Newington. There were also houses with streets with locations next to him involved with drugs and medicines crimes, and with their family members also with the Weathersfield schools, intercities. Then use those locations too through time. These are also the abuses of boys and girls, as the abuses of the specifically for them to hide that. In other words, of the intelligence community, boys and girls. So there's a Sandra Spada and Alexandra Antonetta Spada. I barely know, and the only reason I know them is because they sought me out, and then they put me in a class. Which, you know, I had no personal problems with them. But their boyfriends are involved with predicate acts. Identity thefts and frauds, attaching me to fake locations, fake words, fake ties to themselves, fake natures, ties to themselves, fake nature ties to the other people and strangers. These are also people involved with Connecticut boxing gyms. I never saw in Connecticut boxing gyms. Now they're in the background with the people I saw in boxing gyms, but I never had a verbal conversation with them. In other words, people involved with boxing, USA boxing and the professional boxing, as police forms and courts, associated with the gyms used criminally. So they're preventing people from defending themselves verbally. They're preventing people from bringing solutions that are fact-checking nature oriented. And this is where and how we are quality as fact-checking nature, where it counts, where it's going to cause positive value nature progressions, acts and natures, or negative value nature progressions, acts and natures. It's not just that things are positive that we have to secure. We have to secure identities of positive that are not criminal insidiousness natures of positive. There are people using truths as lies and that forced entertained for time and positions, all that and such, since founding drums. They have Trinity College has some kind of connections to the casinos and to the Native American roles with the intelligence community that also has drugs and medicines crimes, identity thefts and frauds roles with Hartford Hospital, with the other countries they involved, like Saudi Arabia, involved with them with predicate acts, with people leading up to the World Trade Center attack in Manhattan and since. Interstates. As the people also intercities who timed insidious little allusions, fake ties to me. As the people involved at Trinity College, who are now men and women, but when they were kids, and when they were at Trinity, they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, verbally, non-verbally, that Joshua Stryker is involved with having conversations behind my back with a Dean Alford and with other people, identity thefts and frauds. He's involved with people next to the state judicial branch offices, all along Route 3. With confessions. They only know me because they sought me out to make confessions. Nah, I never had communication with him, but I remember when I was in one playtime, I saw him off campus. It was Eric Oliveri who was making confessions about, he wanted me to get involved with them with selling drugs through UPS. Because he has family members involved with UPS. And a Craig Oliveri. And they're involved with predicate acts on and off Trinity College with overt criminal enterprises, plural. And with Wethersfield police families. And with FBI. Former director of the FBI. And federal criminals, co-defendants of his in the 2006 case, were involved with predicate acts on and off Trinity College before that, and since. So they have wire crime methods with the people who answer the phones for the schools. So this would have been cleared up real fast a long time ago. Now this has been going on for years, since before the World Trade Center attack, right before it, in the context. Right before the World Trade Center attack, I was in Manhattan in the Ninth Circuit Court, which proven had been presented to the panel of judges right before the World Trade Center attack in the Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center in Manhattan. They had presented to the panel of judges post-dated documents that had been post-dated from inside the court. Someone had insidiously from inside the court taken papers that had been proven had been filed on time, and they post-dated the time and date to make it look like they were filed late, and that was presented to the panel of judges. So that took all this time, and then it took all the way until 2006, and now we're in a Connecticut District Court. And I was watching the defense and the prosecution in the District Court. Former director of the FBI, former director Robert Luskin was one of the defendants. 3 of his federal criminal co-defendants already proven in past cases. Past cases in those cases, no, that doctors pretended I had conversations with them about. 3 times they used forcing people for mental evaluation when they yell. Because they have crime methods where they force everyone to speak through other people. And they also make confessions non-verbally and have the other and they have a non-verbal confirmation. The courts, people assigned to the courts and the police forms that are involved with the overt criminal enterprises do this. Because it makes it hard for people to tell about it. And it's not hard, but they're going to make it harder. They're going to pretend they don't understand. In other words, my new and past neighbors also confirmed non-verbally, sought me out to confess and confirm non-verbally. The other houses in the area, they involved with my new and past neighbors, with real estate crimes, and with other natures of crimes with courts, judges, and prosecutors, and their family members. And like a Dillon family. There's a Dillon family that's involved with military families, and the house is on off 2-route highway, on off Hangdog Lane, involved with identity thefts and frauds through time. Various natures of bad things that were simultaneous and relative to their motivations for speaking about strangers who they, and trying to pretend that they know strangers by making little instances as exceptions where they can't be honest about how they know me in those contexts. So these are a whole bunch of people from Wethersfield that confessed, recorded, demonstrated since I was in grammar school in Wethersfield. That and how Central Connecticut State University is involved with predicate acts against little kids. And they have the family members of the principals involved to keep them self-valued roles. They also hid the confessions of a principal child offender before that was proven by forcing me to say nothing with other people, by fabricating falsified police reports, by pretending I was harassing the guy who called me back. I called him one time. He made a whole bunch of messages and recorded messages onto my answering machine. So I called back to school more and more. In relationship to those, I called back in relationship to those, they called me, left messages. And they left out what I reported. And they hid that. With the since proven principal child offender. They forced that with more then and now. There's one woman who looks like a teacher. She looks like a girl that used to be in my 6th grade class. There are people in my 6th grade class like an Eric Klotz, who also sought me out to make confessions and demonstration of his roles as a kid. I barely know him. But his roles with a Joe DeMoro and a Kerr family. Officer Jerry Miller, right before the pandemic, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated a Kerr family is also involved with the officers online who even said their names. Now, if they're making up the name Officer Jerry Miller, so that's a federal crime. And the police forms, see, the police are saying, oh, we don't have time to investigate things, so what are they going to do, fake things? That's what they do. They're told to do this by other police forms associated with Wethersfield Police. And a police chief, years ago, is also involved with the house that the clothes are at. Now they have extended family members with the last name Scalora per them and per the Wethersfield Police. They didn't say it was their relative. They said that Wethersfield Police also said, like Joe DeMoro, before he was on Wethersfield Police, per his family member. He said that was one of their relatives. So Joe DeMoro also said, I barely know him too. Like, in other words, one time in 6th grade. So then these people would make confessions to me sometimes about other people's names. And, I don't go over and tell people, oh, they say this, but I don't even know the people. If you fight, in other words, they're getting involved with interactions between people dishonestly. Our courts and our police forms, various natures of courts and their family members. There's a Judge Killian who spoke fake things into records too, and with physical delusions associated with the Leahy family and other doctors and ones with badges with physical delusions and with their family members involved with drugs and medicines crimes on campuses, even medical campuses, and off them, and with overt criminal enterprises. Their patients and criminals are recorded how kept needing to hide sequence shifts, individually grouped and together with them. Even the ones that don't like their doctors because they forced them to take drugs and things like that. Then they're going to pretend that's why the people don't like them. So we have to counter the various natures of courts and overt criminal enterprises with drugs and medicines crimes together that are also using that as falsified police reports roles. Also using that as predicate acts roles, stacking illusions into databases, wrongdoing into databases. Also the media and the interbranch call people names. So then, in other words, they want you to leave that out. They want you to not speak about that. Then they're going to speak about, morality anyway. There's a certain kind that they're using a truth to lie. For example, it's true. People don't want to see people. They want to see them like unemotional. This is the news. This happened. Da 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 da. But see, these people are pretending passions and emotions And they're telling the news wrong consciously. Serious things they're putting lies about. Because they don't care about it as long as there are judges and our prosecutors or our sick people with them, they'll just pretend the other. And they pretend it's a name. Pretend they want to change what I'm saying. Pretend they don't understand what I'm saying. Pick one name in sequence for Wethersfield Police. And for the other police forms involved with them. And for this MPO Floyd. The Eastern States Narcotic Drugs Task Force is involved with Wethersfield Police through time with untimely deaths and uses of the untimely death locations to hide their predicate acts and roles with the drugs dealings that led to those deaths and rolls with them. And it's nothing personal about the Smith family. They sought me out, timed when I was walking there late at night. In other words, from Harvard, I took a taxi back. Boom. These are people that time when you're going to come around corners of streets, when you come around a corner at school, outside, inside the school, they use confession statements from strangers per a method. And they're always lying about people's reactions because this is behavior racketeering. They're lying about people's behavior. And they're forcing, they have media themselves calling people names. They have the courts calling people names, making things up to do so. We have little boys and girls that never grew up. So they have to pretend, in other words, they never grew up legitimately. So they can't, to pretend other, they have to pretend that the integrity of age is other than it is. In other words, they cannot defend their logic and their identities and their uses of other people's names and fact treatments and sequence treatments and ourselves at the same time. I just remind. So, follow mandated law for Wethersfield Police. Who denies this? Get them on paper, one name in sequence with the courts. The courts have also forging and switching names of officers with the courts themselves, also forging and switching names. And so that I have no one to respond to since before the World Trade Center attack. With the people that interstates coordinated, also internations coordinated, also as the ones with the Scalora family. And others with the DeMorphin and Wethersfield Police and the FBI and state police on off the World Trade Center right before the attack. And since the investigators hid this. Also with WFSB, attaching me and others to fake words and locations with the groups that are tied to it. There's a Dan King. I never had anything to do with the Dan King. All exceptions, exception, nature, and demonstration, the same thing. I never had any personal problems with him. A Joe DeMauro and a Mike Kerr said that, Joe DeMauro said that he shared Heather Hansen with a Mike Kerr and with the Dan King. He didn't want to. And then they pretended they didn't like each other for that. But then when they were alone together, where they sought me out to make confessions as strangers. So then they would pretend they knew me. They pretended other. Now, they're also, that's Church Street in Old Wethersfield. Ray Cololo also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed other houses on Church Street in Old Wethersfield. And rolls with people associated with the house. He didn't bring up the house at the corner of, but he brought up the people associated with it. There's a house on the corner of Church Street and Main Street in Old Wethersfield that is involved with them with predicate acts with the English department, with the Wethersfield police chief's family also, and with the professors at the school. These are also with people from Albany, New York, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with predicate acts and wrongdoing associated with people with and as Jack Heitner. And with the rest of the people forging and switching names at Central Connecticut State University and at Trinity College. So Joshua Stryker, like for example, with Trinity College predicate acts, has roles with that, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with people all along Route 3. That goes by the state judicial branch offices. And with the Cololo family, also involved with the Wethersfield police confessions over the phone, switching names and forging names, falsified police reports since I was a kid with them, mixing me and the people around me involved with that. No, and with the Smith family that used to answer the phones for the Wethersfield police, and or still does. And with the new families that does it, like the Mendez police brothers. Also involved with the pattern with the locations next to the news media locations. Downtown Hartford, the buildings next to it, and the church next to it. A St. Anthony's church has a Perone family that also pretended they knew me. Behind my back with a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of boyfriends of a Danielle Perone are involved with state police and Wethersfield police and other police forms with Wethersfield Parks and their kids with identity thefts and frauds. In other words, they also tried to take pictures of people sitting next to each other. And then now I need to say I don't know Danielle Perone at all. She was sitting next to three or four kids that all said they were her boyfriends. One time in Mill Woods Park, there are proofs that someone took a picture of that. Because these are people that have been roles with the falsified police reports, identity thefts and frauds instances, spoken. And they've been using Facebook for offensive evidence racketeering. Also with other military police besides the NPL fully. There are houses next to Webb School. And Webb School is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed, involved with military police families. Like with Justin Levinskis, I don't know his brother's name, but his parents and his brother are involved with abuses of little girls that went to my grammar school. And one of them is the wife of him. I never had a class with her. She's one of the ones in the background that was spreading lies about me. And with an O'Brien family, who is also involved with a whole bunch of them with Sandy Hook, Newtown, as the ones that are intercities involved with lie progressions and uses of them recorded through time, since before the Sandy Hook attack, since before the World Trade Center attack. So people pretend that others are making conspiracy theories when they're faking conversations with us, replacing actually recorded audio and video, even over the phones with the police to do so. And they've been inventing fake conversations over. So we need to have mandated law follow. We have to have who denies it, pick one name in sequence, getting onto paper. So we have little fake men and women only allowed to stand. And then they pretend that's personal. Oh, that's personal. I mentioned the proofs before it. So make sure I get a name on paper, because they have some judges, black and white female judges included, involved with a detective Samuda, who switched his identity with a real arresting officer, which was Officer Magnanos. Then he made a promise to appear and gave it to my mother, not even to me, coming with Wethersfield Police. He's an East Hartford officer that was on Central Connecticut State University's campus. Attached me to fake communications and relations to other people on the campus. So he also has there's a daughter, apparently, who works at Central Connecticut State University with the name Magnanos. He also confessed and recorded uses of a Steve Manos. He made confessions and demonstrations and threats about his roles with Steve Manos and him. With the courts involved with the Wethersfield Police, with them intercities, East Hartford through time, They have East Hartford some ways also with a former Governor Malloy, with the principal child offenders campus. They used him to force that not told on since before it was caught, and there was more then and now recorded involved with it. Now, I would have been a way better teacher a lot of ways than these people, and started years ago. But I have to take care of this first. So you need to respond for them, because they also have there's a Kevin Harris. I don't know. I never had I never had a verbal conversation with him at all. He pretended other. He's recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed by a Rick C.M. Faglione and by others associated with a Collusion family with him on and off Central Connecticut State University, whether he ever went to that campus or not. There are others like a Jamie Carone, and there's a Joseph Lombardo, who's also involved with drugs crimes with the nurses and doctors at Hartford Hospital, and with the intelligence community, with the houses on all sides of the high school, involved with falsified police reports, and uses of their roles with that, with legalized or whatever, or overtly criminal, uses of the various natures of drugs, and of the cliques, and of the boys and girls leaving out stuff, and hearing things that make it look like other people were in locations they never were. And then other people question them about such, and the fact, I heard that. They leave out where they heard it. So there's also Paul Kelly, I don't know, who sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. He's involved with a Mark Violet and a Mike Violet, who also recorded, confessed, demonstrate, confirm. They're involved with people involved with strippers, with prostitutes, and police forms at the end of Elliott Street and next to schools, like the school there at Buckley High School, and next to Hartford Hospital campus, and campuses I went to. I never had a class with Mark Violet or Mike Violet. Mark Violet and Mike Violet confirmed, confessed, recorded, demonstrated, confirmed they were involved with the Collusion family and the Wethersfield police that called me from the Wethersfield town office about 6 months ago, playing these games for months and months, because before this, they were already falsifying police reports and switching and forging names with a lot of officers, and with the courts doing this, roles with them, intercities. So make sure I get them onto paper, and make sure you report this to Wethersfield parents. Also, the drugs with the nurses also involved with them criminally. Foreign and domestic foreign and domestic military and doctors have roles with all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes, mental health delusions, as the experts on it originally still. There's no identity here that's not inclusion with them, and they're still sick fakes. That's why we have sick fake punks pretending they're not and calling people names when they're called out for that, for their actions, for their inactions too. Follow mandated law. So, please, can't call the police because they replaced what's actually recorded with fabricated audio and video that's recorded. They can't afford to have communications with people online because they'll get caught. They told too many lies. They have to pretend too many things they can't pretend on records legitimately. They've been using the courts remotely. They've been using the prisons, the people that run the prisons, people associated with Sandy Hook, and that run the prisons, and the police forms associated with them that send them there, and the courts associated with them that send it there. They're recorded pretending that people are making allegations and conspiracy theories when they're recorded involved with predicate acts, child abuses, identity thefts and frauds, making things up about people. There is an officer. There is a officer named O'Neill, reportedly with Wethersfield Police Department, who's also involved with some West Hartford teachers and campuses and houses next to them with drugs, with the military, like in other words, and with fire departments, involved with falsified police reports, sequence shifts, insurance investigators involved with criminally foreign influence, uses of religious locations. There are some kind of differences between, and the unity between the father and mother of Eric Burgess, and with a religious location at the end of the street near the West Farms Mall, and there's a little fire department near there. And the Joe Dennis also sought me out to confess, record, demonstrate, confirm. He'd also been part of playing football with people in that park there. And there's a woman with Munson's chocolate also recorded, confessed, demonstrate, confirmed roles with them. These are people that attach me and my family members to fake words with each other and with other people. And they've been doing this through time, intercities connected. So Joseph Dennis has roles with investigators in place that put drugs in people. And this kid's delusion is raw, criminally foreign influenced, involved with his brother is also involved with him, all along Wells Road, from Weathersfield to CCSU, and with people on off to Hangdog Lane and Tourade Highway, with identity theft frauds, slanders. I never had a class with him in my life, no. Joseph Dennis. I never had anything to do with him. He sought me out to make an exception that he could pretend other with, and pretend I knew him before that. And he made confessions about his brother John, with the location, like in clubs or little bars on the way to Central Connecticut State University, that Rick Sam Faglione also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated prosecutors with New Britain Superior Court personally involved with drugs crimes and medicines crimes with him and his family, with a John Mayana and others. I never had anything to do with Rick Sam Faglione. After he got out of high school, he made some confessions to me, and they used that to pretend I knew him in high school. I never had anything to do with him in high school. I never had anything to do with him when he was in my middle school class. That Mr. Neville also pretended other, apparently. And he's also involved with recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed predicate acts and mail crimes and other natures of crimes and falsified police report that Heather Hansen and that Joe DeMauro and Ray Collo are involved with him. With the summer school class they put me in, with that grouping. That also had used that grouping for falsified police reports. They also have roles with federal criminals and their kids before they got caught, who also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated their parents were involved with falsified police reports against my father and against other union leaders, because they were involved with people with since proven, like John what's his name? Dominic Lapariato, the neighbor of Eric Jensen, recorded, confessed, demonstrated. He went to jail for stealing pension money. Before that, they were involved saying lies about my father, quoting statutes that allow people to lie about the opponents in political or even union elections. See, but they left out exceptions. They don't have to give them the right to falsify police reports, etc. See, they have all kinds of countries involved here and there with our job sites. All kinds of companies, and even if the other companies aren't involved, the industry is involved this way, so we agreed to do this way. We have to understand how that was forced on our founding parents to try to be a country and develop wealth as a sick, fake country, forced as a slave, as a country, with countries A through Z already having been that. We were forced to enter that and be that. No more. No less. Or increasingly less. So this is where slavery came from. It's a fact, cheating nature-oriented predicate acts delivery system method. It came through criminal foreign influences. But so we have the people that speak about criminal foreign influences as experts, like former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved with predicate acts with the criminal enterprise, can't defend themselves and us at the same time.